On today's show, Craig Porter Jr. is popping off in Las Vegas. Let's talk about him and the Cavs' backup point guard needs on today's show.
You are Locked On Cavs, your daily Cleveland Cavaliers podcast.
The music you heard on the way in is from our friends at Astra Radio. I am Chris Manning. That is Evan Dammarell. Thanks again to Jake Stevens for producing. Thanks again for making us your first listen every day. Remember, we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. All right, segment one today. The Cavs are in the semifinals of Summer League. Good for them. Hang a banner if they win an IMO. Segment two, we're going to talk about Craig Porter Jr. And segment three, we're going to talk about the Cavs need for a backup point guard. Evan, you snickered. Hang the banner.
Hang the banner.
Have some fun.
It always makes me think of the Colts putting up a banner saying, like, was it when they made the AFC Championship game and lost to the Patriots and they put a banner up? It just makes me laugh. I just the thought of that. But you know what?
No,
Rock on, Cavs. Good for you guys.
Yeah. Blow some pyrotechnics on opening night. Have everyone out that you can. Give them, don't give them a ring, but give them, a medal. I'm just make it, let's just make it fun, you know? Let's make it fun. Life's too short to not take this stuff for fun, you know?
I mean, in the words of Sublime, life is too short, so love the one you got, and because you might get run over, you might get shot, so if the Cavs want to love this moment and live for it, yeah, fully lean into it. You know me, I am a meme lord, and I just chuckle just at the thought of an actual banner ceremony. I picture J.R. Smith kissing it and putting his ring up on the banner.
Yeah.
It's just they fly in Khalifa Diop from Spain just to give him his plaque, and he holds it up against the banner as they raise it.
Yeah, find a jeweler in Vegas. I want to see team photos where Amoni Bates is drinking a ginger ale because he's not 21, or a Coke, or an Olipop or something good for his gut, you know. So the Cavs did beat the Bulls. They are undefeated still in Summer League. Let's save the Craig Porter Jr. talk for second segment because I think he was really the big guy and he was really key over the last 2 minutes of this game. Didn't have Khalifa Diop, didn't have Sam Merrill. So two of their other starting five are out. Then Sharif Cooper gets hurt. This was a game where they really definitely navigated some of their not best things, right? This wasn't the best version of the Summer League Cavs that we've seen, but it was enough, and they're still undefeated.
Well, as I say in every episode when we talk about the Sin City Cavs, this team is not perfect. I don't think any team is. I totally blanked on Dalen Terry being on the Bulls. I'm just oh my God, his percentages are bad. And you kind of get that with guys that have that taste of NBA flavor, but they're also maybe not playing 4 games in a Summer League either. But it's interesting just because the Cavs, like you said, without Diop, and according to Chris Fedor, he had duties overseas in Spain with his team, so I don't think he'll be with the team for Sunday's game, depending on whoever Cleveland draws for the semifinals of the championship bracket. There's no Sam Merrill, as you had noted, which makes sense. You don't want to maybe run him into the ground just because he is technically the only contract player that's directly with the Cavs. He doesn't have that charge fluidity other than the Cavs putting him on assignment, and you don't want to run him to the ground just because he still is rehabbing from a nasty knee injury that he suffered towards the end of his time with the Bucks and the I think he was with the Grizzlies at the time. But either way, you look at that, and then you noted, Sharif Cooper is a guy who really benefits from the Summer League system because the ball is going to be in his hand more often than not. Mike Garrity trusts him to have the ball in his hands too and let him run the offense through him. And I think for me, just looking at this game against the Bulls, it obviously wasn't the game against Memphis the other day where the Cavs won by 23. One, because Sam Merrill just went nuclear from 3. Then Amani Bates had the most efficient game of his professional career 4 games into this point. So it's interesting. There's a lot of good, a lot of bad at this one, but this is the flawed Cavs team. So I didn't expect anything perfect, but it was refreshing. I think I want to say to see a team that kind of coasted a lot in a lot of their summer league games actually fall behind by quite a bit and have to scrap with Chicago down the stretch just to ensure that they do go 4-0 and they can actually play in this championship bracket and maybe the eventual banner ceremony night for Chris Manning.
Look, Summer League is not the crispest basketball. It is not the most perfect basketball. And this wasn't even like a great Isaiah Mobley game. I still think on the aggregate, he's been the best player for Cleveland at Summer League. But, he was 5-15 from the floor, but still had 12 boards, 4 assists, and 2 blocks. Had a step back 3 when they were down 5. That was big. And later was able to get 2 at the line and give the team the lead. Like, he had enough moments to make it work. And then Travers, gave you very good all-around play, at least solid overall around play. 8 points, 9 boards, 2 steals, some really nice passes. They're not super getting treated well as a shooter, which is a very Cavs winning thing to be, but clearly has some skills. This is such a difference of other summer league teams, Evan, because I think broadly the reason you're undefeated now is because you brought guys who are a little bit older who have played professionally overseas or in the G League, and they're just a little more seasoned. This team skewed a little bit of way where if you would have, I don't know if FanDuel had odds for summer league championship or whatever, but this would have been a team where you look at the age of the roster and it's there's some stuff there you can absolutely work with.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And that's kind of always been my through line whatever it's talking about this Cavs Summer League team or writing about them. It's just they're imperfect, they're flawed. You can't take much stock from this, but there's stuff you can look at individually, okay, what pops a little bit? What do you think is a little bit more sustainable? Because it's not NBA level talent, clearly, because there's guys that are rookies, sophomores, 3-year players, guys that are fighting to get into the league, a lot of G League guys too, but it's that weird in between of rookies finding their footing in the NBA and G League guys just mixed in together. And it is somewhat competitive basketball, and there's limited offensive sets. Maybe some assistant coaches get more bold because they're trying to show their chops as an offensive tactician, but it's interesting to look at just how this Cavs team functions, and more so you had mentioned, we'll talk about Craig Porter Jr. in a second, but I agree, Isaiah Mobley is better than he was the first year around in Las Vegas Summer League. That's where I can see tangential growth, and there's clearly some benefit from him spending most of, if not the majority of his season with the Charge last season. And you look at guys like that, or Travers, who has made some improvements and, like you said, isn't getting respected as a shooter quite yet. But there are just things he does where, okay, he makes quote-unquote winning plays that help the Cavs in the grand scheme of things, even if he is not a plus factor in terms of just perimeter depth. And you look at just stuff like that, and you're okay, yeah, there's some pieces here where you're okay, there's some stuff I can just kind of maybe make a small checklist of just things I want to keep an eye on with some of these prospects, whether they play for the Cavs, it's Isaiah Mobley, or it's a guy like Craig Porter Jr. who will maybe spends, or Money Bates, who spends the majority of his rookie quote-unquote season with the Charge, to just kind of keep having that runway to grow and develop, and you kind of just keep tabs on what he is as a player to see if there are long-term fits that could maybe be pieces, smaller pieces in the grand puzzle of what the Cavs are trying to build.
Up next, let's talk about the aforementioned Craig Porter Jr., how he shined in this game, and what's to like about him so far from what we've seen in Summer League.
Today's episode of Locked On Cavs is brought to you by Bird Dogs. Bird Dogs make you look good, and they make you feel even better. The Bird Dog stretch khaki shorts are designed to fit slimmer through the thigh and leg, giving you a truly sculpted look. And more than importantly, Bird Dog shorts do the exact same thing as Lululemon, but fit way better, and they fit way better than regular shorts that are made of stiff, restricting cotton. Bird Dogs fixed the issue by inventing cloud knit fabric that looks just like khaki, but it stretches so you get a way slimmer fit without having to sacrifice movement. Bird Dogs also, and this is huge for me on the golf course, they have so much flair. It really lets you make a statement with your butt. Bird Dogs also has anti-stink wicking fabric that keeps you cool and dry all day long, because we're all experiencing a Texas summer at this point. Why not keep everything cool and dry down there while you're out and about? So if you're interested in checking out today's sponsor, Bird Dogs, go to birddogs.com/LockedOnNBA or enter promo code LockedOnNBA for a free, let me pull it out, Yeti-style tumbler, like this one, without the stickers, of course, but yeah, if you want something like this, it may come in blue, may come in a different color, but that's birddogs.com/LockedOnNBA or promo code LockedOnNBA for a free Yeti style tumbler. You will not want to take off your bird dogs. We promise you. And I do promise this. I say this a lot. I own several pairs. You guys saw me record an ad with me wearing a pair. Some of the most comfortable shorts I own, and I didn't believe it until I tried them on. And it's like wearing a cloud on your entire just lower half of your body.
All right, we're back here. Locked On Cavs. Chris Manning, Evan Dammarell. Craig Porter Jr., Evan, to me, was the star of this game against the Bulls. He has a really strong feel for the game that I think showed up in this game. He is pretty much always in the right spot at 22, 6, and 3 steals in this game. Had 8 boards and a block as well. You know, he's a little bit older, obviously different kind of development path with the JUCO stuff and then to Wichita State. But he was really poised in this game, like a very poised, adult-looking NBA kind of guard. In the Summer League game, again, Summer League, take it with a grain of salt, all that stuff, but Sharif Cooper goes out. They need someone to step up. He did that more.
So Craig Porter Jr. is a guy that's kind of always intrigued me, just in terms of like looking through the lens of the Cavs do need like a long-term answer behind Darius Garland, and especially if Ricky Rubio does end up going back to Spain at some point in his career, just like decides to retire because of his family. Like, we know the rumor is
save it for segment 3. That's segment 3. Save it.
I'm teasing a little bit, and we'll talk about that more in segment 3. But just looking at this game, as you had mentioned, I think he benefited from Sam Merrill being out. He definitely benefited from Sharif Cooper, unfortunately, dealing with that injury, and he really stepped up to the plate. And this is just like reading the bio of Craig Porter Jr. and just like what he is as a player coming out of Wichita State. Like, he's not the most refined player in terms of three-point shooting. Sometimes he does look a little lost operating the offense in the pick and roll, but like he makes winning plays on defense, which is a plus if you're the Cavs coaching staff and that's like your approach. But more than anything, he's just like, he's a basketball player. Like, he loves just doing whatever he can to help a team win. And like, you really saw that impact in this game against the Bulls, where he was doing a lot of the little things. And the play that sticks out for me the most is that offensive rebound he grabs in the fourth quarter that results in a wraparound passing play to Isaiah Mobley, who takes a step back 3. But like, Craig Porter Jr. is 6'1", 6'2", maybe 6'3", but like, he was crashing the glass against some of Chicago's bigs in order to make sure he got that offensive rebound. And there's something endearing about that when you watch a player that's smaller compared to bigs, but he's busting his butt to and just make that one last gas play to maybe try and secure a win for his team.
Yeah, like he's going to be a little bit undersized, which makes me kind of interested to see kind of what the Cavs view him as. It's not maybe the prototypical mold I would look at for them if I'm looking for kind of the right backup point guard for a Garland, Mitchell kind of thing. But if you're going to skew this way, 6'2", 185, he plays a little bit bigger than that to me. So there's something there, but what's really intriguing to me about it is just from him as a prospect standpoint is just the pure production. He doesn't have like, his game is sort of a mix of a lot of different things. Like, he can finish through contact a little bit. He makes shots off the dribble. Good passer, had like crazy blocks in college, he is like a good facilitator, but it's just kind of like a jack of all trades kind of thing. I don't think he like pops in one particular way. And I kind of think you saw that in this game. And you also just saw a guy, Evan, that I think, one of the things that I think Summer League shows you is who is like ready and like good to go and who is still kind of adjusting to this life. And I think if this was like a 19-year-old guard and Cooper goes out and they hadn't started all Summer League and then they're suddenly thrown into starting and being the lead ball handler in crunch time, it wouldn't have gone this way and they might have lost. I think Porter Jr. being 23 means like he just feels a little more polished and a little more ready to go than he might have if he was even like 21 or much less like 19 years old.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the knock against Porter Jr. coming out of Wichita State is he had a year at JUCO. He played a lot of time at Wichita State. Like, he has a lot of tape as like a quote unquote winning player, but he's kind of not a complete prospect, because there's always going to be room for improvement going from college to the professional level, but like, there's not a huge runway for him to grow as a player. But he's intriguing in the fact that despite his age, despite the fact that like he's 1 of 7 from 3-point range in summer league play, like he was never known as a plus shooter out of Wichita State, like there's some juice here for me to look at him. I'm like, okay, in terms of UDFAs, like it's like Dean Wade was a hit for the most part, Lamar Stevens was a hit, and then you trade him to get Max Strus, and then you look at Craig Porter Jr., like this, it just gives me the vibes of like watching him take advantage of a situation and just kind of be the either the Batman or the Robin to Isaiah Mobley's Batman or Robin, to just kind of like will this Cavs team to victory that were shorthanded because Sam Merrill was a difference maker for the Cavs all throughout summer league, and like not having him out there was a pretty big blow. Amani Bates not really being as hyper efficient as he was against Memphis was tough. And then you're asking other guys to step up, and Craig Porter's a guy who came off the bench in the first 3 games, starts because Sam Merrill's out, and then takes advantage of Sharif Cooper being out. Like, he stepped up to the plate, and there's something about that where you watch him, and I've broken down a lot of his college tape after the fact, and you're thinking like, okay, maybe there is something here, and I'm intrigued to see what he becomes and develops as a player, likely with the Cleveland Charge for the better part of his rookie season. But like, what do the Cavs see that maybe I see as well? Because Porter Jr. did say, like, even during his pre-draft workouts and even immediately after he went undrafted, like the Cavs called and said like, hey, we have a vision for you. Maybe it's not this upcoming season. I don't think it's going to be. Maybe a year from now, 2 years from now tops. Like, you can be the lead guard behind Darius Garland to kind of lead and facilitate bench units, because he does have success playing off ball at the Wichita, and I wonder if that's something like Mike Garrity or whomever's coaching the Charge utilizes. But like, there's some interesting stuff the Cavs could do with this, and I'm curious to kind of monitor his situation on top of Bates going forward to see if the Cavs can kind of just keep churning out some like high-end rotational talent that aren't guys that maybe play on a nightly basis, but are consistent, reliable options that you can kind of tap into if you need to, just in case of situations beyond your control.
Curious to see if he plays some 2 guard as well and defense twos. I think that's one of the things I want to see. Can he defend up at all? And because I think that will unlock some things. We'll talk more about that next. Coming up, what do the Cavs need from their backup point guards next year and long term with Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell in mind? Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel, which is the official betting partner of Locked On. It's my favorite place to do sports betting at. It is really easy to use. The app pays you instantly. It's just a great way to indulge a little bit if you want to get into a little bit of sports betting. And right now they have a great offer this MLB season. Take your swing at betting MLB and FanDuel and get 10 times your first bet in bonus bets up to $200. That's right. Bet $20 and you'll land $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. That's $200 you can spend on betting everything from the money line to the over, under, to who you think is going to get the first home run. All of that, again, is on an app that is safe, secure, and super easy to use. Plus, when you can get paid instantly. There's no better place to bet at MLB than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So sign up today and visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, official partner of Major League Baseball. All right, last segment. Evan, here, when I say backup point guard for the Cleveland Cavaliers, what are the skills that you think that player ideally should have?
An understanding of the pick and roll, just currently constructed, whether it comes to Jared Allen or Evan Mobley, mostly Allen. I think more so than that, though, is comfortability and familiarity of playing off ball, because you're likely going to be sharing the court with one of Karis LeVert or 2 of Karis LeVert, Donovan Mitchell, or Darius Garland at any given moment, because the Cavs have added depth this offseason. I think having a guard that can provide playmaking but is comfortable playing off ball is really what you're hoping to get in terms of what you get from like your backup point, which is why I'm a fan of the Ty Jerome acquisition. But like, if we're looking through the lens of Craig Porter Jr., like there's a chance there. Just how comfortable is he playing without the ball in his hands in order to be effective on offense?
I think versatility is where I start, because I think particularly when let's say you're just continually to build with Garland and continually planning to build with Mitchell. Those are 2 smaller guards. You obviously have Evan Mobley and Jared Allen to insulate you defensively, but I think the rest of the roster you have to build in some of that same sort of fashion. I go back to pre the Mitchell trade, pre his ACL injury, Ricky Rubio is kind of the template for this. I would maintain that his big impact that season, I think even more than the offensive stuff, was his defensive play. He was really big at the point of attack. He was deflecting passes. He was there and was able to play with Garland because of what he did defensively. I think whomever your backup point guard is, they're going to play with Mitchell and need to support him defensively. They're going to need to they might play with Garland at times and need to support him defensively. I think that player, whoever they get, has to be someone that can kind of slide between spots and doesn't need to be, a fully just kind of Howell Neto, bring the ball up, game manager, point guard. I don't think having like one of those to turn to at times is the worst thing in the world. But I think if you're hot, your first choice has to be something a little more versatile, has to be something a little bit more capable of bending in between different skills and roles.
So the defensive stuff is definitely an interesting point, because I think Donovan Mitchell at least is trying harder under JB Bickerstaff on defense. Maybe it's having less of an offensive load. So like that's not as pressing of an issue, but like Darius Garland is small for the point guard position. He's 6'1", barely 6'2". People can height watch me all they want, but like he isn't super duper athletic. He plays well positionally, but like if you ask him to be like a help defender, if he gets like isolated in pick and rolls, like you watched what the Knicks were able to do at times with one of Garland or Mitchell, and like having a guy that this isn't like an apples to apples comparison, but like something that I always circle back to is like the Brad Stevens Celtics with Isaiah Thomas running the show, like Avery Bradley being the safety blanket next to Thomas, just handling a lot of that point of attack pressure on defense for Boston to kind of maybe cover for Isaiah Thomas's weaknesses. And I'm not saying like Darius Garland or even Donovan Mitchell or Karis LeVert, depending on what we get with Karis LeVert post-contract extension, are that big of a liability, because Thomas is a completely different beast in terms of just defensive issues. But like having a guy that is willing to step up on defense and maybe just kind of make those hustle plays and just work a little bit harder is beneficial. And I think it just makes it more of a cleaner path, because if we're just looking through the lens of what the Cavs are right now, like a cleaner path to playing under JB Bickerstaff, because if you play hard on defense, 9 times out of 10, that's going to get you minutes in Bickerstaff's rotation. And you see him, definitely he's a creature of habit where he'd rather lean on veterans and guys that he has a very close familiarity with or understanding of what they are as a player. But if you were a dude that busts your butt on defense and plays hard and makes those extra effort plays on that side of the court, you're more likely to get more consistent minutes. And if like you're Craig Porter Jr., who kind of has a bit of a track record of being a guy who tries to defend bigger despite his vertical limitations, like coming out of Wichita State, like he was like, oh, he can maybe be a guy that defends 1 through 3 because he tries to play bigger than he actually is. Like if that sustains at the G League level and maybe the NBA level as well, like that's encouraging for the Cavs. I agree with your point. Like Ricky Rubio's biggest impact, not this last season, but the season prior before the ACL tear, was he did play bigger than what he actually was player-wise, and was a really nice complementary guard defensively to Darius Garland, because those units were just so effective with the two of them working together.
Yeah, and look, I think if you're trying to find a long-term answer here, I think that has somebody feel good about defensively. I think it's someone you have to feel confident in is able to do that, and that's where I think like the Rubio for this year is a risk. I think they may just could see a world where they abandon ship a little bit with him if it doesn't go well early, or maybe they ride it too long. It could go one way or the other. The year after that, I think this gets really interesting just because he has the partial guarantee in his deal. There's a lot to kind of consider with do you keep him right now? We'll see what he looks like this year. We'll see what he looks like he wants. I'm curious to see just what Porter Jr. I think could have a shot to earn the job, a shot at the job at the very least a year from now if things go well for him. I think. And I think if we're let's say compare him to Cooper, who did start ahead of him in summer league, has been in the organization's orbit longer, but isn't signed in any formal way. I think his all-aroundness, I think his size, I think some of the versatility, some of the defensive stuff, I think kind of indicates to me that I think definitely view him as more of a development option than they do Cooper at this time. And maybe this year if Rubio gets hurt, you might see him a couple games here or there.
I do wonder if Rubio gets hurt, like maybe it's just more Ty Jerome minutes and you're empowering Karis LeVert to be the lead guard. But like looking through the lens of just Craig Porter, if he pops sooner than expected, and as you had noted, like I think there's just more upside with Porter compared to Cooper, despite I think check Sharif Cooper's age.
I mean, he only was
actually Craig Porter's older than Sharif Cooper, so
yeah, Sharif Cooper's real young. This is a 2021 draft guy. This is like still a very young player. And Porter Jr. was a 5-year college player.
There's a bit of a height difference, and I think Sharif Cooper just doesn't have the defensive acumen that Porter does currently, and maybe it's some of the playmaking stuff. I think it's something that Mike Garrity, while he was head coach, maybe he is head coach again heading into this season, has been working with Cooper, just because it's an approach the Cavs have with Darius Garland. We're like, hey, we need you to be aggressive on offense, but like not like chaotically aggressive. Where like you have a fine understanding of when it's okay to score versus when it's okay to pass. And you can see it working with Cooper sometimes, but like high pressure situations. I think about the Charge losing in the G League playoffs to the Long Island Nets. Like they had a chance to tie the game, and instead he saw Sharif Cooper, instead of passing to a wide open teammate on the perimeter, drive into a forest of players, get blocked, and then you saw a turnover and then an eventual foul on Cleveland that helped lock up the win for Long Island at that one. And like that, if that were to not happen, like the Charge would have been in the Eastern Conference Finals, if I'm thinking correctly. Like people can correct me if I'm wrong, but like as you had noted, like Sharif Cooper isn't signed to a 2-way contract. Maybe he's a dude that the Cavs just like are taking the long look at, but like Craig Porter to me seems like a guy that has a bit of a cleaner path because he has that playmaking upside already. I think he looks comfortable to an extent operating in a pick and roll offense, and more than anything, just he plays hard on defense. And again, like that is a cleaner way to get minutes with the Cavs if you just try hard on defense. And we're not saying like, hey, Craig, we need you to play 25, 30 minutes a night. Like he's going to maybe at most get 10 or 15 in the event of like a Ricky Rubio injury. It just, and we'll see how it goes. Also, we could be like completely wrong. Maybe Rubio finally is like fully healthy heading into the season, and like finally has like a lot of the ghosts of the ACL tear and just like some of the rust that came with it as well, just completely shaken off, and he is able to like function as an off-ball guard and maybe play similar to what he was. But I don't know. I'm intrigued by Craig Porter Jr. quite a bit. I know I say that a lot, but like he is a dude. I'm like, yeah, he kind of fits the mold of what the Cavs kind of need at backup point if he does flesh out to what he's projected to be just based off his college numbers and projections.
So in there, I'm Chris Manning. That's Evan Dammarell. Back at you after the weekend, or at least Evan might be. I will be traveling for a day job thing. Thanks again to Jake Stevens as always, everyone. Be well. Enjoy the weather. Talk to y'all soon.